Hello, everyone. Glad you're joining us. We're here for the third section of our three-part series, and this is exciting. It's one of my favorite topics, and I can't wait to dig in a minute. We're going to wait until everybody's starting to jump in here. Remember that you can put your questions in the comments and we will try to get to them and answer those. And if you like, you can get into the comments and say where you're coming in from. Where if you are in Australia or wherever, what part of the world or what part of the country. That's always fun for everybody to look at and see. So we're going to keep waiting here. And I've had a very, we were laughing ahead of time. Sometimes, you're used to juggling a lot of balls. Most of us are balls in the air, life, all the things that come our way. And some days there's just a lot more balls than you expected. And today was one of those. So it can work two ways for me, right? Give me more energy because I'm lit up on fire with having to juggle a lot of balls, or I could let it feel overwhelming to me. I choose, I choose to take all the balls. They're calm for now, they're in their spots, and be able to impart this information to all of you. So, okay, Diana from Arizona and Barry from Gilbert. So, this is great. And Barry is an expert at music. You should all check him out. Amanda, no sound. I'll try again on the repost. So we'll see if we get any others. There's Las Vegas showing up. That's great. So we'll see if Amanda can jump in and get to her sound, hopefully. Mississippi. Well, okay. Can I turn on my Southern accent? I picked mine up in Louisiana when I lived there from sixth grade to through my master's degree, and it kind of stuck. So when I'm really happy or I'm really mad, it comes right back out. So I'll just have to smile everything that we say, right? And then you sound like you're from Mississippi or Louisiana. So I appreciate you jumping on. That's great. Here we go. Beverly says, yes, outside. Mary is outside Buffalo, New York. I know it's cold there. I hate to rub it in, but it's kind of beautiful here in Arizona. At least we have sun when it's a cold day, but our cold days are nowhere like yours. But I will say, up there in Buffalo, I've been there many, many times, and northern New York, it's gorgeous. It's just beautiful. So always have hope for spring is coming soon. Probably not soon enough. So stay warm. And let's see. Looking here, it looks like we're about to start in a minute. And so whenever we think everybody's ready, we've helped everybody get to their sound. I know that Tarna will jump in and welcome everyone officially.
You got it, Dr. Worden. We do have sound. I checked it on the other side, and other folks are joining by the moment. And to go ahead and kick us off, to guide us on this journey, is Dr. Worden, an award-winning physician, researcher, and global health educator who has spent her career bridging the worlds of conventional and alternative medicine. She collaborates with major institutions and researchers around the globe and has received many awards and accolades from her peers. This puts her in a unique position to share and utilize leading edge information and treatments that are novel and yet scientifically sound. In addition to Dr. Worden's research, medical practice, which includes patients from all around the globe, and consulting, she also offers seminars, health masterminds, and retreats around the world. In today's session, you'll be educated, empowered, and enlightened by her suggestions for your overall health and wellness. And more specifically, the primary focus of today's conversation is your gut health. Please help me welcome Dr. Worden.
Thank you, Tarna. I do love to work with patients and with clients, and even when it's virtual, which many times it is from around the world, I like to always start out, most people come to me and say, here's my symptoms. But when we're virtual like this, I want you to ask yourself a couple of questions. As Tarna said, we're talking about digestive health today and what you need to know. So let's talk about, or actually, I want you to think about, go back to childhood. Did you have tummy aches? and not the ones that you were faking because you didn't want to go to school. But did you have stomach issues, diarrhea, constipation, more very common in children? Did you have GI issues? Did you have skin issues? Because many times skin issues are actually gut issues. Because when we're in an embryo, we literally flip wrong side out. So the skin are very similar and many times the same cells as what's on the inside lining of your gut. So when the gut is upset, we see it on the skin. So ask yourself, how was I in childhood, skin or gut issues? And now let's walk into today's world. These are the questions. Do you have any problems with gas? Now, I ask this on my intake, and people, it says often, sometimes, or never. And people will say never. And then I say, do you mean never, never? And they'll go, well, it's the normal. Doesn't everybody burp? Doesn't everybody toot? And I go, no, no, no. I'm asking never means never. So ask yourself, is it often or sometimes? Once in a while, you eat too much or you eat the wrong thing that you know bothers you, then you're probably going to have some upset. Otherwise, you really shouldn't have upper gas. If you drink a lot of bubbly and those kinds of things, that would be a normal response. But gas on the lower, you should be able to digest most things, especially foods that are not on your sensitivity list. So if you're having trouble, that's something to not ignore. The other would be to ask yourself, do you bloat after eating? I have many people that come and say, I look 6 months pregnant, or I feel full. I feel like the food is sitting there like a rock and not digesting. Do you have any of those issues? Um, let's talk about your bowel movement. I like to talk about that a lot because it's an important part and it's something you can actually see. It's your best test. It's one of the best tests is to look and see what's happening there. When I have patients come in and they say in this section that I have a bowel movement every day, pretty much in the morning, it's a log about from wrist to elbow, and it might be in two pieces sometimes, but it's about that long. It's about as big around as your wrist in the middle section. It's easily passed, so it's a soft, but it's a log. It's not a cow patty. It's not pebbles or looking like big marbles, hard marbles. It is in a soft log. It doesn't smell bad, and it's a medium brown color. When they tell me that, no matter what they're coming to me for, no matter what disease or discomfort that they are having, I say, we've got a great start because health begins in the gut. And if that is functioning well, all the other things are going to be much easier to fix and to find. So ask yourself that. How many bowel movements do you have a day? If you see blood, that's not normal. If it's bright red, it's usually from a hemorrhoid, which again is not normal, or maybe you were constipated and there was a little tear there. Bright red blood, we don't worry about as much. You still need to understand it and fix the root of the problem. But if you see dark stool, black stool, that's higher up blood, that's up in the colon, that's worrisome. And that's when we may need a colonoscopy, right? Also, if you see mucus, that is your body trying to coat inflammation. That GI is so inflamed in that lining that your body is trying to smooth it out for you. So that's a big hint for an inflammatory bowel issue going on. And do you see undigested food? Now, if you eat your food too fast and you swallow corn whole, you're probably going to see it. That's one of the ways that we look at transit time, how fast your bowel, and once you eat, how fast that should be. And we have you swallow whole corn. But if you are eating your food properly, chewing food properly, you shouldn't see undigested food there. Another question to ask yourself, do you have rectal itching, especially at night? That could be a parasite. Talk about that more in a minute. Do you have internal or external hemorrhoids? Now, that is a vascular issue. The walls of the veins are not strong. If you have varicose veins on your legs and you have those hemorrhoids, you need to be working on strengthening your vascular walls. But it can also be caused by inflammation in the gut. So if you have long, thin, narrow stools, that can be a couple of things. It can be a celiac disease, and it can be a gallbladder issue. Those are things that you need to check out. If you alternate constipation and diarrhea, this irritable bowel syndrome thing, that is something that I have found a real deep connection with emotions, that when you're upset about something, that's when those kinds of things happen. By definition, syndrome, let's take irritable bowel syndrome. By definition, syndrome means it's not a disease, it's not a diagnosis, it just means you're fitting a pattern of symptoms. And that means we have not found the root of the problem. So IBS to me is, people come in and say, well, I know what I have. I have IBS. And I'll say, what's causing it? That's the real question. If your stools are too loose, you need to be looking into that, because it's so fast and so loose that you are not getting the nutrition that you need and not giving the time for absorption and assimilation of your nutrients. If you eat out in a restaurant once in a while, let's say every few months, and you have diarrhea, it was a bacteria in the food. Don't eat there again. It should pass through the system and then you'll be over that. But you should not be having diarrhea very often. And you should be able to say, I know what caused it when you do. If you have yellow or light colored stools, again, back to celiac, which is the gluten issue, or gallbladder, those are things to check into. And if it's smelly, if it smells, no, it shouldn't smell unless you have asparagus or something really weird that can do that for you. It really shouldn't smell bad. If it does, you're not breaking down your foods. You have a digestive disorder. You can try digestive enzymes, and that's great. I like them for a lot of things and a lot of reasons. However, I still want to know why. Why do you have that issue? Let's talk about the pieces of the digestive system. Now, what is the digestive system? Well, it includes the mouth, the esophagus, goes into the stomach, into small intestine, large intestine, and all the way through the anus. That whole pathway is considered the digestive system. But what's also connected to it is your gallbladder, your liver, and your pancreas. Those are organs that are intimately involved. And if there's a problem in one, there's a problem in others. But there's another system that's considered part of the digestive system, and that's the microbiota. That's the microbiome, those bugs in your gut. And we know a lot about it at this point. We're learning more every day, but it's probably been about 7 years ago. I traveled to Boston and to LA, both coasts. There is a group of researchers from all the major institutions worldwide that were studying the microbiome. And they saw the studies of, we can change and do a lot of prevention and treatment by manipulating and helping those bugs be more diverse and be better. It affects many organ systems in the body, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But they knew then there was a link with cancer, arthritis, diabetes, obesity, and mood. And now we know many more studies with depression. So it was very important enough that they were all there and still studying it. They still are. Let's talk about what is the microbiota. First of all, those bugs, there's 10 times the number of those bugs compared to our human cells. Yes, you heard me right. You're mostly bugs. You're mostly bugs. Very little of you is actually your DNA. There's 200 trillion of this microbiome. Now, what does that consist of? Viruses, bacteria, I'm forgetting one, yeast. There's other bugs. There are different kinds of bugs, but all of those are included into this title of microbiome. And it's 150 times larger than the human genome. They have more DNA, probably 100 to 1,000 is the estimate at this point, more DNA than our DNA. So it's important. You need to be nice to your bugs. You have to understand we're symbiotic. We live with them, and it's very important. And they really are considered, and I agree, the next frontier in prevention and therapeutic medicine. Very important. And I looked back, it was 2008 when I was lecturing for a group of psychologists and psychiatrists in behavioral health. And I was asking, where are the certain serotonin and things made in the body? And at that point, they didn't know that the majority, in fact, the vast majority, more than 90%, are made in the gut. It's a two-way street from the brain to the gut. Very, very important. And now we understand it, but a lot of doctors still don't know what quite to do with the information. I have a lot of details on that, and I will be talking about those details in future of these workshops, but we can't get into it tonight. But I need you to understand the importance of the microbiome and what damages it, we'll talk about in the future. Now let's talk about leaky gut syndrome. Leaky gut. You've heard of it. And when I talked about leaky brain on one of the former of these three-part series, is the leaky gut is a problem with a permeability. So that gut lining is supposed to, at a cellular level, have tight junctions. So when I draw it for a patient, it's a square and then another square. There's no space. That's why they're called tight junctions. When those get damaged from stress, antibiotics, many other things, viruses, many other things, when that's damaged and that's leaking, you're losing nutrition and you're getting things crossing through that barrier that are aggravating you, causing more inflammation that normally wouldn't be there. So leaky gut is an important part of your digestive symptoms. And what are the symptoms? It doesn't have to be digestive. People think, oh, I don't have leaky gut. I don't have any digestive problems. Well, it can be headaches. It can be fatigue. It can be skin issues that I talked about, hormone imbalances, mental illness, including depression and anxiety, joint pain. So there's many other symptoms that you could be having if from leaky gut. And we know how to test for it. We know how to check for it. And that should be done if you have any of if you're not finding answers to symptoms that you're having. Let's talk about, again, that brain-gut connection. I started lecturing 20 years ago on, it was called neurogastroenterology. We knew the neurons, we knew the brain, and we knew the gut, so it was neurogastroenterology. Now it's neuropsychoimmunogastroenterology. What is that? Mind, immune system, all of that. It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. So we're stopping that title because there's so many things that are connected, and it's very, very important for us. Now, the lining, the enteric nervous system, that is an entire nervous system that's unique for the gut alone. It's been called the second brain. It's that important. And in many, though there's so many of those enteric nervous system, those neurons in that gut lining, there's more there than in some other parts of the neurological system. Your brain has more, but your central nervous system and other parts of your nervous system don't have as much as that gut. So it is your second brain. It's very important. It's very correlated with environmental toxins, with stress, with food sensitivities, nutritional deficiencies. There's many things that can damage or hurt that enteric nervous system. We can test for those. And let's see, other things that just quick little bits that you could just try, what really helps that enteric nervous system. We know that NAC, it's a good little antioxidant. It's called N-acetylcysteine. Green tea, drinking green tea, magnesium. There's many others. Fish oil. Those are things that can help that enteric nervous system be healthier. I want to talk about parasites. I know that is whenever I identify those in patients, they just really have a hard time. They just don't like the idea that they've got a parasite. Well, then I remind them that, remember what I just taught you, is that we're mostly bugs anyway. These are just pathogenic bugs. They're ones we don't want. Flukes, nematodes, different protozoans, different things that shouldn't be there. Those we want to identify. And I worked with the world's leading parasitologist and actually studied under him for many years while I was still in medical school, and traveled to Egypt and worked with him there a little bit with infectious disease and parasitology. So I know a lot about parasites. You have to identify which ones they are, then we know the best way to take care of them. Some of the parasites have become, like many of the bacterias, have become resistant to treatment, and we just have to learn to live with them. But most of the time, we can get rid of them. Another way of looking, just a slight little bit about testing, is a PCR analysis. If you say, I've had a stool analysis, but I have rectal itching, I swear I've got a parasite, my eosinophils on lab work are high, all these things, everything's pointing there, but the stool analysis didn't show it, then for first I've got to make sure you got the right kind of stool analysis. But a PCR analysis is another deep dive way of looking at a deeper level, and those are unique tests. As far as testing is concerned, I just want to put a little shout out right now to a new type of test, and this is not specific to gastroenterology. It's more specific looking for cancer cells, but a liquid biopsy. They've been in Europe for a while. A couple of the companies are here now. There's a new one about to launch, something that I think is going to be even better, and I can't speak about that yet. But right now, the liquid biopsies give us an idea if there's any circulating cells. Some types of cells it's highly accurate for. So if you have a family history of colon cancer and you're having digestive issues, might not be a bad idea to do a liquid biopsy and say how many cells are there and are any of those gastrointestinal cancer cells, not just prostate and breast and the other things that we look for. Now, let's talk about antacids, PPIs. People say, well, I just take an antacid once in a while, or I just do one every day because my doctor told me, because I was experiencing some burn and some problems in the esophagus, that I needed to do that. Now, I'm going to say, I agree. You cannot let that problem go. It would cause Barrett's esophagitis. It can actually cause throat cancer. You need to not let that acid be in the esophagus. But what's causing it? Is it a hiatal hernia letting the acid back through? Is it that you actually don't have enough stomach acid? It's called hypochlorhydria. We can test for these. There's a reason why your body is giving you that symptom. And if you take a PPI, a proton pump inhibitor, we knew that there was a signal, a research signal, that it was looking like it may be related to certain cancers and even heart problems. Now we know there's a significant risk if you take antacids, significant risk for gastric cancer and liver cancer. And one of the latest studies, they did it on 5.2 million people. This is a large sample, and that's what they found, significant risk. So find the root of the problem. Why are you having that symptom? And PPIs, short-term only while you're trying to find a problem, but it should not be used, in my opinion, ever for long-term. And actually, if you read the insert, it's supposed to be for short-term. Let's look now, finding the root of the problem. We talked about that, but very important, I believe, is understanding all the connections with the gut health. It's about your immune system. It's about your neurons. And I'm going to throw a new one at you. It has to do with your sexual desire and libido. So yes, sex and your gut are connected. There's a mind, mood, microbe balance that's going on there. And it relates to hormones and the neurotransmitters that the body needs to make for you to function well. And it has a role, that microbiome has a role, a significant role in libido and just your general sexual function. The diversity, how many different kinds of bugs is important. We want diversity. We want as much as we can get. And we want balance, the good bug versus the bad bug. And we don't want too many of these kind of bugs compared to those. And that is being tied with sexual health. Sexual excitation, when you have the libido, when you have the ability to enjoy it and really take it for everything that it should be for, it's driven by norepinephrine, by dopamine, oxytocin, other vasopressin. There's other hormones. Those are the drivers of sexual function and excitement. Then there's other hormones that are others that are inhibitory, other neurotransmitters that are inhibitory. And that includes opioids that your body makes, prolactin in your brain. But here's one you need to know about. Why is it that SSRIs, that's the antidepressants that are in that class, they cause low libido and low sexual excitement? Why is that? Now we know there's a big link, because those, when we increase serotonin to try to feel better and not have depression, it decreases some of these other hormones that allow the libido and the sexual excitement to happen. And that's well documented. We know SSRIs can cause those problems. So that makes me wonder what would happen if someone needed to be on an SSRI for a short period of time till they learn how to meditate and get to the root of the problem, why they're depressed, why they're having these issues. while they're doing that, if it would even be helpful, is could we be supporting the microbiome? And I have done this in my patients, especially when we're weaning off of SSRIs and we're working on the microbiome in their guts. They start feeling better. We can lower the dose, lower the dose, lower the dose, because you never want to stop those fast. The brain does a harsh tap dance saying what just happened, and it can put you more at risk for a real severe depression, including suicidal thoughts. So don't come up those fast. Work with a physician if you decide to do these kinds of things. But your gut microbiome has to do with your mood, your mind, and including the sexual. And this is interesting that there's specific strains that have been studied, and women, when the microbiome is off, have a little bit more connection, trouble with libido and sexual excitement. But here's an interesting one, is that men with problems with the microbiome have erectile dysfunction. So what if the erectile dysfunction, it could be cardiovascular, it could be other problems that could be there, and just fear of failure is a big one. But what's underutilized, and under taught is that the microbiome can affect erectile function or dysfunction in this case. All right. I think that, let me look here. I think that we may go to questions. I always want to leave enough time for that. Let me see. And it looks like we've got some questions coming in. So I want to make sure I get to that. So Tarna, would you like to help me with that, or should I just go straight into the Q&A?
Go ahead and share a little more if you would like, Dr. Worden. We do have a few questions that have come in, not a ton of them just yet.
Right.
Linda just said, you are so brilliant. Thank you, Linda. And June said, you know so much to know about our guts.
There is, and you know that when patients come in, I save that section for last. I mean, I ask from head to toe. Your mood, are you in a happy relationship? Do you have any aches and pains? I mean, it takes about an hour to an hour and a half to fill out my intake because I want to know everything. Why do I save the gastrointestinal to last? Because it's the most important. So we talk through a lot of information. We talk through all of what the person is struggling with. And when we get to the gastrointestinal, and I can see that section, I know how to tie it back in to their immune system, whether they have cancer, whether they, again, just mood wise, they're emotionally not doing well. They have inflammation. They have aches and pains. Their joints hurt. They have pain and they can't get their inflammation down. They have trouble with focus with their brain. Whatever the symptom is, diabetes, obesity, all those things, I know that we're going to be able to address that if they don't have really great gastrointestinal health to start with. And I will tell you, it's rare. Most people have trouble. They're not handling their stress well. They don't have the tools. They haven't figured out what food sensitivities, what foods they shouldn't be eating. Do they have a leaky gut? All the things that I talked about today, if they haven't tested for those things, if we're not testing for those things and you have those symptoms and you're just taking a bunch of supplements, you're just taking stuff, hoping something will work, that's when you start saying you're wasting money. We need to find out the cause, and then we can decide, are there natural ways that can help you heal and repair? And my goal would be, can you eat a variety of foods, especially fermented foods, that will repopulate the microbiome? Do you need certain strains and certain probiotics? What can we do to heal the gut? What's causing it to start with? Why do you have leaky gut? Why do you have a parasite? Why was the gut the perfect opportunity for that egg coming through on foods that you ate for that parasite to go, I think I'll stay because this is a great yucky swamp and I want to be here. Why? So you always, no matter, even after the testing, and you find out what the problem is, you always need to go back to, but why? And I teach my clients, I teach my patients, ask why. So they, if you come in and you say, well, I know what it is. I have this. And I'll say, well, why do you have that? Well, I don't know. I said, that's the point. We don't know. If you come in and you know that you ate at a restaurant 2 days ago that was kind of iffy and you had diarrhea from we don't need to spend time on that. We know what happened. I just want to make sure you're better and there's no after effects that we need to do with that. So it's always ask yourself why, and don't give yourself an out to say, well, it's just, normal. A lot of people have it. No, there's a problem. We need to find out why. All right.
Okay. We had a couple questions that came in earlier too. When you were talking about the parasites, they were asking, are there other symptoms of parasites? I think earlier you were mentioning a couple of the symptoms, but are there others?
This is a great question. I'm so glad you asked. Is that I did for medical school, we have to have a paper at the end that we use as a research project. Well, because I was working with the well-known parasitologist, I said, let me look at that data. And there was, I believe it was 10,000 known patients we knew what parasite they had. So I did a symptom questionnaire just to look at this and run the data to say what's the top symptom. You might think it would be a gastrointestinal symptom. It was not. It was not. And I tell my patients that. Sometimes it was just fatigue or an achy joint or weird skin things. The symptoms, I think it was number 4 or 5 in the list of symptoms that you might have with a parasite. So I don't want everybody to be worried. I look at certain things in blood work to say if the eosinophils are high, then I want to start looking. If you don't have seasonal allergies, then I'm going to suspect a parasite. The symptoms can be multiple. So that's the problem. They're sneaky little buggers and they cause many symptoms, and they're not just gastrointestinal. And that was a good find in the research project that I did, because even I was surprised about that. You would have thought that would have been the number one symptom, some kind of gastrointestinal upset. It was not. All right.
The next question is from the same person. And how do you find out if it's a bad one?
Well, any parasite that shouldn't be in there is bad. They can eat your nutrients. They can cause inflammation, and inflammation is the root of you name a disease, from cancer to even to obesity. Inflammation's a bad guy. So if they shouldn't be there, they shouldn't be there. All the good bugs we have, great. Here's another issue, is that we all have a little bit of E. coli and salmonella and all these things. They're in us. It's when they become overgrown that we start having symptoms. So keep that in mind as well. But parasites, different types of parasites, some are really harmful and others just shouldn't be there. And we want to identify them. We want to look for it and figure out which one it is. What I learned from the parasitologist, there are certain herbs that will work very well for certain types of parasites. Others, we have to go to medications and I have to write a prescription. All right.
And then this one was regarding when you were talking about antacids. Is that the same for pets? Our vet just put our dog on antacids.
So I'm not going to say that we have a study to show that, but their gastrointestinal and immune system are very much like ours. In fact, a lot of the studies that are being done on cancer with the metabolic therapies that we utilize with ketogenic diet and hyperbaric oxygen, they're on dogs that have cancer, incurable cancers, and they're getting better. So we know we're pretty similar. So I would suspect that that's true. The problem is the pet can't tell you. You're going to see symptoms, they don't feel good. But I would ask the vet, is there a hiatal hernia? Do we understand why? Do they have too much or too little acid in the stomach, and why? Do they have a parasite? Have you checked what's causing that inflammation that makes them want to put them on this antacid? So it's the same set of types of testing that I would be asking for if it was my pet. Same ones I'm talking about. Okay.
Okay, and then this one says, if your gut affects erections, can it affect hormones? An example, thyroid.
Well, it does affect hormones. We know that, some of the ones I was just mentioning, the specific ones that either upregulate or downregulate sexual libido, all those things. So yes, everything is connected. Everything is connected. So when the gut is not working well, there's not an organ in the body that's going to be at its best. There's not a study that I know of directly talking about microbiome with thyroid. It's a good thought. I will look for it after this. I love to research. You guys are going to bring me questions. Sometimes I'm going to say, not that I know of, even though I'm a research, what would be the word? I overdo it. I'm up at 4 a.m. and I'm reading the latest research. So I will look that one up, Summer, and see. But I don't, even if there's not a study, I will tell you, I believe everything in the body is affected when the gastrointestinal system is not working because it affects, we know, hormones, immune system, all of those areas. Okay.
All right. And then Vicky asked, no guidelines what to do with no gallbladder. What should I be focusing on now? Because I know I am not gut healthy. And then earlier she said that she started a gut health regimen and is excited to see how it goes. But of course, from the gallbladder perspective, I think she's asking.
Yeah. So if it's the gallbladder causing a lot of the gut issues, you got to ask and you got to work with a practitioner. But I have patients that when they have to have the gallbladder removed, emergency, because usually we can fix it and get the gallstones and all that out of there. But if you have it stuck, you've got to have it removed. Yours is gone. You need to look into and think about ox bile. So what happens is the liver makes this bile, makes this bilirubin so that the body can break down its fats. The gallbladder is just a storage organ. So when you go to the doc and they go, let's just take it out before it becomes a problem, or it's become a problem, it won't mess anything up. Well, it was there for a reason. There's a hormone called CCK that when you eat a fatty meal, it tells your gallbladder, I just had fat. The gallbladder squeezes and it releases the appropriate amount of this bile so it can break down your fats. You don't have that signal going to that pathway anymore. And so now the liver has to just kind of trickle it all the time. And so if you eat a meal that's high in fat and you've noticed that you have more struggles there, then ox bile, just putting that in like it would have been done if it gotten the signal, you're putting it in yourself at that time of that fatty meal. Now, you've got to make sure you don't have autoimmune disease. I don't like using animal products if you have an autoimmune disease, but that will be up to you and a physician that really understands this. But ox bile has been phenomenal. You think of it as like a digestive enzyme, and you take it, and that will help take the load off the liver and help because the signal's not working properly and you know you ate fat. And that includes bad and good fat, by the way. Good fats. We want the good fats. We want good olive oil. We want a lot of good coconut oil. We want those good, healthy fats. But if you can't break them down and assimilate them because you don't have the enzymes to do it, then that's where you've got to supplement digestive enzymes and ox bile, those kinds of things. Hopefully that's helpful for you.
Awesome. And then this one's showing up on the live that I'm seeing here, but it says, what can I do to get rid of gallstones?
That it depends if they're, first of all, what I do is we get imaging and I want to know what size the tube is, your tube, and how big is that stone. If it's big and you've got a small tube, we may have to do lithotripsy. That is something where they shake and you can get that under insurance and try to break them up. Got to do something. But if they're small, there are herbal ways to do it. It's not just a one thing that I do that I would say, here's what I do in everybody. That's where it comes to individualized medicine. I know my patient, I know all the other organ systems in their body, I know how they're functioning, and I will choose the best way to do it. But we can usually get to it with a dietary change and an herbal regimen to break down that gall sludge and gallstones. We're watching it to make sure we did. If they're small, we can usually get to it. But the herbs change. It depends on which one I choose for that individual patient. So there is, know that we can do it though.
Awesome. And then Vicky, I think this one was a follow-up to the ox bile. Is there a certain brand that you recommend for ox bile? Is that something you carry, Dr. Worden?
I do. All I can say is if you just go to my website, I do all the I take all the guesswork out for you. I have a certificate of analysis on every single bottle of everything that I do. What I can tell you is the brands that I choose, and there's lots of them. I'm not specific to one company. I'm not loyal to one company. I want to find the best product from the best place for the best price. And they're going to show me that they have in there what it should and not have all the bad things that shouldn't be there, molds and toxins and heavy metals. So all I can say is the brands that are on mine, look it up. Those I can guarantee. Any other brands, I can't guarantee. And I hate to recommend outside of that because I've worked in the nutrition industry and there's a lot of bad players out there. So be careful with it. But you can look on mine and see what I carry and get it from me or get it from somebody else.
Okay. And then Dr. Warden's team is on with us right now, and they're saying you would need to call the office to get that. So we'll get you the number here in the chat.
Oh, so
And
it's
then
not on
another
my
one.
online store. Okay. And that's because I want to make sure who's getting that, I think. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Awesome. And then your team also sent in another question that someone was asking. My daughter wants to know if different smells when passing gas mean different things. Is that something to even be conscious of?
Sure. I mean, different foods smell differently, right? And when we digest them and they go through, they may smell differently. And that's just normal. But what's not normal is you're passing a lot of gas. That's what's not normal. When you do, if they're super, super stinky, we've got a real dysbiosis. That means good, bad bugs. We've got something growing in there that shouldn't, extra bacteria. It could be a lot of different things, but it's normal for them to have different smells. We haven't identified what smell means what. That brings to mind, though, something else that I didn't talk about is SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. So if you have the puffiness thing or the fullness thing, you cannot on a colonoscopy going up from the bottom up or an endoscopy through your mouth, you'll say, I've been scoped. They can't find anything. Small intestine bacterial overgrowth will not show up on either one of those tests. It's a specific test, a breath test. And we say, is it methane gas? Is it sulfur based? We know what type it is. And the good news is we know how to do a good job of getting rid of that. But SIBO is another test that you might consider. And so I know I have workshops coming out up that we're going to be digging in deep on the types of testing, the tests that I think are good, the ones that I know are accurate, my favorites, and which ones you should consider, and which ones you don't probably need to spend your money on, which ones insurance will pay for, that you shouldn't be paying cash for, and which ones insurance isn't going to be paying for, but they might be very beneficial and give you better answers. So I know that it's the new workshop is called BIG for Brain, Immune, Gut. And Tarna's going to tell you more about it later. But the brain immune gut, we're going to dig in deep for 2 hours and really go into the types of testing, because a lot of you ask me that. And if I can educate you on what the tests do, why you might consider them, and why you shouldn't pay money to things that you don't need, right? That will save you money in the long run. And that's going to be important. So that's it. We'll talk about healthy brain. Thank you for Tarna for putting that up. In that, we'll be talking about how a healthy brain functions, what it feels like. You're going to rate your brain health. You're going to look at your immune system adaptability. How good is it when it's attacked? When something, a virus comes in, we can look at that. And should you be looking deeper at your immune system? We'll talk more about your gastrointestinal system and again, what test that you really might consider, which ones you can ask your current doctor for under insurance, which ones you can self-order, and which ones you're going to have an integrative doctor order it for you. But it's going to help you narrow it down in what you really should be asking. What are the questions? What are the questions you should be asking your providers? And that's important. And my goal is to teach you what normal is. And if you say, well, I'm not normal, the next step is, how do we find out what is going wrong? And then there's lots of ways to treat different things. People say, well, how do you treat this? Well, again, it depends on who's sitting in front of me. And if I can choose one thing that will work on 2 or 3 different problems, that's the thing I'm going to choose, so that you're not doing multiple. I have patients that come in with bags full of supplements. And I say, you realize that's going through you're asking your liver, your kidney, your gallbladder. Everybody's working hard with all that stuff. You need a real reason to be on it. And I need to know why you're on it. And then it's got to be a quality product if you're going to do it. How much can we do with foods? It's the first step. And your lifestyle, your stress levels, because your stress breaks open those tight junctions I just talked about and causes leaky gut. Maybe it's just stress. Then we need to work on that. But I'm excited about this is that it's January 11th at 9 a.m. PST, 12 at noon EST. We're doing that because we have people around the world, Australia. We're trying to help those guys out so it's not 3 a.m. in the morning. So this is how to take control of your brain, your immune system, and your gut. And we'll do a lot deeper than I've been able to do on these hour-long free webinars that we're doing. So hopefully you're interested in that. And Tarna will go more into that in a minute, how you can sign up about it. And please tell your friends about it. That would be great. I really want to continue educating this way. I can only see so many patients in a day. I can only work with so many people. This is a way I can give back. This is a way I can spend my time educating you with the years of experience that I have, the research knowledge I have, the clinical knowledge I have, and give that to you. As much as I can give, I will give. Other times, I'm going to have to ask you to help support it because I've got a staff and everything else, just like we all do, got businesses to run. But I'm going to try to give you as much free information as I possibly can, as much as I can. So I'm excited about this workshop, though, the big workshop, brain, immune, gut, because those are the three big areas. You fix those, all the other symptoms that you're talking about and are bothering you will usually just go away and get better. So, Tarna, you want to tell them more about the workshop?
I sure will. And for those of you that are still here with us, this is the end of our 3-part health series that we're going to be hosting on this platform. The big workshop is going to be, as Donese was saying, or Dr. Worden, I got to remember, Dr. Worden was saying that will be on January 11th. The link is there in the chat. It is mybighealth.com/workshop. And again, that is going to be focused on the brain, immune, and gut. Now, you are going to be able to join live for free with Dr. Worden for this 2-hour session. And then once you do join, I'll show you what the process looks like right now. Again, it is mybighealth.com/workshop. When you register, you will have an opportunity to join Dr. Worden on Zoom. She wants to have a private and a closed forum for anybody who would like to be able to ask her questions, even questions you're not comfortable asking your doctor yet. We will have a place for you to ask anonymously. We will guide you through that and make sure that it stays in a private forum so that you can come and think of any question that you may have. But as we go through that session, as the questions may come up, you will also have the opportunity to be asking her then. So again, you will be able to, it is a small fee. It is $47 for you to join us live on Zoom, but anybody can join us live for the workshop. Also, one other thing we want to make sure that we mention while we're here with you is Dr. Worden's team is putting together her list of what tests you should or how you should consider your test and a little bit more about them. Dr. Worden, would you like to share a little bit about what that mighty little list is going to include?
Sure. I'm excited about it because to date, I've not seen anybody put this together like this. So it will list all the tests. So when I talk about them and we dive deep on that, you'll be able to have the links of where they are. You'll know which ones you can self-order, which ones you need a doctor for. It's going to make it easy for you. You'll have the descriptions again of that, and that will be in a nice little list for you that you'll be able to share with your family and friends. And it just keeps it right in front of you. So you're not having to go back and watch a video. And what did she say there? What was the name of that? It'll all be right there in front of you. And that's a wonderful gift that I can give you. That's years of experience. And that's me working with multiple companies over the years and vetting out the ones that I trust, that I think are worth the money, or they're worth asking your doctor for under your insurance. And you'll be learning a lot. You'll probably go back to your physician and ask for things, and they'll think you may know more than they do because you'll know the test well. And that's important. You need to know these things. And then it reminds you, oh, I'm having this going on. I wonder if I should take this test, and you can look back as a reference. So that's exciting. We came up with that and thought that was something that you would all enjoy. We get asked that all the time. I have never put them into one place before. And what I don't want you to do is take the list and run them all. That's a waste of money. You're going to learn about them, which ones to do. So I'm excited about this. And Diana, thank you for telling me that you're enjoying the information. And Vicki said she just subscribed to my YouTube channel. Yay. There'll be even more information on there. There's already some great information, but I'm going to continue to do that. Please let everybody know. I want to do more of this, and how I can do it is if you guys support me by sharing it. That way, it makes sense for me to say, I'm going to take the time to do these and help more people than I can, one person at a time. So I appreciate you all. And I'm excited about that workshop. And again, remember, you can do it for free on Facebook, but then it stops. And if you want that other anonymous ask question thing, then you have to pay that minimum fee, whatever that was. And I think it's fair.
Okay, so again, that's mybighealth.com/workshop. Dr. Worden will be back with us on January 11th at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, which I believe that ends up being about 7 p.m. British Standard Time. So we're hoping to make sure that we do get Dr. Worden's community from around the world. For those of you that are with us right now, you're going to see in your email, and you're going to see us sharing that the whole series will be packaged up for you to check out. And that is the first series. She really focused on sleep, energy, and body. The second part of the series, where she really focused on your relationships, the state of your mental well-being, as well as your spiritual health, and how all of those all come together. And then, as Dr. Worden said today, she really talks about the gut last. And that's why we're doing that as the third part of the session here. And when we do the big workshop, Brain, Immune, and Gut, I have this strong suspicion that that's probably going to be the similar journey she takes you on at that point, but of course digs in deeper and then creates that open private forum for you. So again, join us on January 11th. That will be free for anyone who wants to attend. And then when you show up live, you get that list of the tests that Dr. Worden was sharing with you. But when we are on that workshop, she's going to take us through that so that we're empowered to know what tests are ones to consider and how to consider them. With that, we will let you guys go for the evening and see you back here on January 11th. And Dr. Worden, I'll turn it back over to you to say goodbye.
All right. I just want to thank everyone who was here and listening. Hopefully that is helpful information. If nothing else, I want you to ask the question, why? If you can't rate all your body systems as a 10 out of 10, you need to ask why, and not wait for a disease to show up. And if you do already have a disease, what are the things symptoms your body is telling you that you should be listening to that will help you battle and help you combat the disease states? So good night. I appreciate, or good morning, whatever it is, wherever you are. I appreciate you being here. Thank you.